Awesome. So, welcome again to this episode of Top 5, the video in which each episode a very special guest joins me to share their top 5 games of all time. My name is Arturo, and you can find me on Twitter as at Arturo Nereu. Today, we have a very wonderful guest, a person that is a very special person in the game development community. She's a professor, she's an author, and she's a game designer and also a wonderful speaker.
Ooh,
So today we have Thais Weiller. Thais, how are you? Thank you so much for being here.
thank you for inviting me. I'm fine.
Awesome, thank you.
Fine. Not great, not terrible, so fine.
Yeah, for people watching these, we're in one of the worst pandemics in the last 100 years. That's why we're doing this remote, and that's why you see us at home. But yeah, again, I feel really humble of you taking the time to chat with me. First off, I would like you to ask you, what do you do? Where do you live?
Okay, so I'm a game designer and producer. I co-founded a small indie studio called JoyMasher with my husband, Danilo Diaz. Together, we have made games such as Oniken, Odalus, Blazing Chrome, and now we are working on Moonrider. Before that, I also worked with some other companies doing different set of games. I also like to make text games. I like to enjoy myself and do a lot of different stuff. And I live in Curitiba
Okay.
for 4 years now. Curitiba is a city on the south area of Brazil. I like it here because it's colder than most of other Brazilian areas.
Okay.
It's actually, I think it's something similar with Bogota because that's Curitiba is the tallest capital of Brazil,
Okay.
so
Okay.
we have a more nice climate.
Weather. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, when I've been to Brazil, like in Sao Paulo, I've been in times where it's cold, but like any other city in Brazil that I've been to, it's very hot, very warm. Especially Manaus, which you know you've been there, and also Teresina.
Mm.
It's the hottest place on earth that I've been to, but
So yeah, above Minas Gerais,
uh,
most of those Brazilian areas are much hotter. They are closer to the Ecuador.
yeah.
But Minas Gerais has a lot of cold places, especially high places. And São Paulo can be very cold. Curitiba is the only capital of Brazil that it had snowed a few times,
Okay.
like 3 times in the past 100 years. So
Okay. I was expecting like 3 times every year or something
no,
like
no,
that.
no. It's actually a meme of Curitiba's ugly snowman because people like that one sometimes it gets like a small like ice fall that it's not actually snow, so people try
Uh,
to make snowmen out of it and they're just like this tall and like
yeah, I can
this
imagine
shaped.
those. Oh, that's great. Yeah, the next question that I would like, well, first is I when I think of you, I think as a game designer, right? That's the idea that I have about you. Would you consider also like you are mostly a game designer? That's how you will say your profile fits into.
That's how I see myself. Lately at JoyMasher, I have been doing more of producing.
Okay.
But the way I approach producing is very similar to how I approach game design. So the way I approach game design is the player is the queen. The player is the most important part of any game. You
Mhm.
have to understand your player, and I make all of my decisions based in this player, this imaginary player that I try to personify in different people I know, depending on the game I'm making.
Mhm.
And the way I approach producing is very similar. I have my deadlines, but the way I see it is I have my team and I have to understand how to approach each member of the team while I optimize the flow of work, which is something very game designy.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I see as very similar things because I have been doing it a mixture of both in most of the companies I worked with.
Okay. Yeah. I again, when I think of you, I think as a game designer, but I know you do other stuff. And we were talking before starting recording that you have written a couple of books. You have appeared as guest on other books, which is also great. And well, yeah, I'll put the links to the books in case someone is
Thank
interested.
you.
But yeah, it's
They are not that interesting, really.
I will say they are, and that leaves me yields me to the next question, which is, do you remember the first time? Well, when we met or where we met? I do have that very present. Do you remember?
The first time we met?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I remember the first time I heard of you. It was I was talking with Jay,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
which used to work with Unity, and he
Yes.
was among two candidates, and I knew one, and I knew she wasn't any good, so I
Okay.
recommended him to hire you.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I thank you very much. I didn't know that. No, I remember when we met in person was in Colombia. I think it was probably 2014, 2015.
Yeah, for that dev day that was in I think a Hudson hotel.
But it was yes, but it was a Samsung developer day, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. That was the one. And I remember you were giving this presentation. Now I don't remember if you were giving it in Spanish or Portuguese or English. I don't
I
remember
think
that.
it was English.
Okay.
I understand Spanish. I had my diploma for speaking Spanish when I was like in the beginning of college.
Okay.
But after that, I never spoke Spanish with anyone ever. So
Okay.
it's almost a dead language to me. I can't speak it, though I can understand it.
Okay, yeah, that's great. But yeah, that's the first memory that I had. Then when we meet and you joined us for a developer day in Bogota. That was 3 years ago. You gave also a very interesting presentation as well. A lot of people in the community gave great feedback about that. So I
I'm
always
glad.
appreciate that. And
It
I
was
remember.
an amazing trip for me because I missed Bogota so much, and I could see my Colombian and Venezuelan friends again.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, it's always great. And I also miss like this year at GDC we didn't meet. Usually that's another place where we usually meet entire like community because we live pretty far away. Even like Alex or Jay, I worked with them for the past 6 years, but I haven't seen them in like 2 years in person. So yeah, it sucks. Now, the next question that I have before jumping into your games, Thais, is what's your story with video games? What's the first memory that you have of a video game, of playing or making? Or what's that story?
The first memories I have around video games, I'm not sure which one came first, but I remember my father having a Atari 2600,
Uh huh. Yeah, yeah,
and I remember playing Pitfall and hating it
yeah. Why?
because
Because
I didn't understood it a lot. I
okay, okay,
remember that I really liked Haverhide. That was a game I enjoy on Atari.
okay.
And actually, funny story. My father got that Atari as a marriage gift, I believe.
Okay.
And
Okay.
when he
That's.
beat Riverhead Tree,
Uh,
he my mother took a photo of him in front of the ending of the game because he
oh,
couldn't
nice.
believe he had finally finished that game. He had been playing for like 2 or 3 years. It was before I was born even. So
That's really cool.
that's one of my first memories, and the other memories I have are around PC gaming
Uh-huh.
because that was the only console I had contact with during my whole childhood because my parents didn't believe in consoles, in video
Uh-huh.
game consoles.
Okay.
They thought it was stupid to have a piece of machinery that was so expensive and could only play games. It's a toy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had PCs because my father is an engineer
Uh-huh.
and he sometimes worked from home. So I played a lot of PC games like Commander King, Arkanoid, Wolfenstein 3D, and
Wow.
later Doom and Doom 2. Uh, those are my first recollections of video games.
Okay, that's indeed a funny story. Like getting one of those. I think now it will be more common. Like if you give your husband like a console, it's like yeah, a lot of people do that. But back in the Atari time, it's I don't think many couples will give these consoles as presents. And yeah, it's also interesting to hear about your first experiences with PC and not console, because one thing that I've noticed is that yeah, within those first years, you kind of decide what you like, right? Like even if you
Yeah.
change throughout time, you always remember those times, those memories, like maybe living at your parents' house or something like that, and you immediately match those with your childhood or those times. So I think it's pretty cool. And now the question is how would you acquire those games? Like living in Brazil, how did you get them? Download them? Was there a store where you could get them?
So that's a funny story because I don't know. We live in a very small city, like 7,000 people,
Wow.
and yeah, and there were no stores. We didn't even had a newsstand. I couldn't buy magazines or things like
Okay.
that because we didn't have that.
Okay.
I remember my cousin sometimes installed some of those games. They came in floppy disks,
Yeah.
and they were always pirated because how else are you going to get games?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
And
and that happens. Everyone, I think everybody besides the people I've interviewed who lived in the United States, everybody, their childhoods were based on piracy. I'm not proud, but that's just how things are, right?
I'm not against piracy, honestly, because if that's the only way you're going to have a experience with a video game, go
Mhm.
for it. Pirate my game if you want to.
Yeah, it's difficult, and yeah, I also think like when you are a kid, you kind of know that some things are wrong, but I don't know. Wait, I also I'm again I'm not proud, but most of my
I
PlayStation
I
One
don't
collections.
rem Yes, me too. That was the first console me and my sister got, and
Yeah,
I was already 10 or 12 years old. I didn't even knew those CDs were not original. I didn't even understood that concept. It
yeah,
was just when I was introduced to the PlayStation 2
yeah, yeah,
that I started to understand that those CDs are not original and
yeah.
the console you bought is unlocked, and that's why you can play those games
Yeah, yeah.
because you just bought the console like that. It came unlocked.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, and yeah, I agree. It was hard to know those kind of things, even before like the Super NES. I recently learned that also there were pirate cartridges.
Uh-huh.
Like, and I would like how at least on CDs you could tell like, okay, this might be pirate because there's nothing on top of there. But now it's more like in the cartridge era is like how do you know that this is not pirate? And some people say, oh yeah, look at the screw here, or look at the sticker. But at that time, yeah, I had no idea either.
So I'm not a very good source for that area because I didn't have any consoles during this time.
Yeah.
But Danilo remembers a lot from those times, and he was a rich kid. He had like all the consoles.
Okay.
So he remembers like when his father bought a pirated
Uh-huh.
cartridge and
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it wasn't. And it was particularly difficult to understand this difference in Brazil because in Brazil, the Nintendo Entertainment System, the
Mm-hmm.
NES,
Yeah.
for sure had a lot of clones. The Super Nintendo, I think not, but the original Nintendo had like 4 or 5 different clones, and each clone had a different kind of cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
So are all of those games on this clone pirate?
Yeah.
Aren't they? Are they licensed? I don't know.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, absolutely. It's and I again, it's kind of weird to say this was good or not, and it's not the point. But it's what's the name of your kitty?
This is Peppa.
Oh, Peppa. Is a female cat.
Yeah, she's the gamer cat of the house.
Nice. How many cats do you have?
We have 3 cats and we give personalities to them. So there is like the lore of the cats of the house.
Okay.
So Peppa is the gamer cat. She do streams and play games when we are sleeping, and that's
Okay.
why we have all these noises when we try to sleep, those cat
Yeah.
noises. We have a white cat that we say it's a white supremacist cat, and we have like a Sylvester cat, black and white cat,
Yeah, yeah,
and we say she's like a Antifa cat.
yeah.
So
Okay, okay.
those two cats are always clashing.
I can imagine that. And I like the fact that you give these stories to your cats. Yeah, I like that. The personality of them. I'm looking into getting and adopting a kitten sometime soon. But yeah, anyway. So let's jump into the meat of the video, which is your games. And let's start with the first one. You told me these are not in order, but just the order that we have here. And the first game is on the from the Nintendo era, from 1994, which also
Yes.
it blows my mind how I see at these games. Like, oh yeah, they are old, like 10 years old or something, but it's 26-year old. A game like this, like it's been a while. This game is developed was developed and published by Nintendo for the Super Nintendo, and it's a platformer. The game is Super Metroid. So tell me a bit about the game first.
So funny story, as you said, it's a 26-year-old lady, this
Yeah.
game, but I first played it in 2010.
Okay. Okay. So for you,
That's
it's a newer game.
Yeah, it's newer than Doom or Quake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and it's a very interesting game. I talk about it a lot.
Okay.
I always bring it up in the game design classes I teach because I think it's a very strong uh, case file for level design,
Hmm.
contextual storytelling, um, the feel of the game. If you take out the intro where you hear the last Metroid is in captivity, the galaxy is at peace, and all those texts and that awful intro, if you take that out,
Yeah.
during the whole game, you have no text whatsoever. You have just the text messages of you. Oh, you got mice. missile, you got super missile, you know
Yeah.
about the power-ups, but our protagonist never says a word. There is no dialogue. The narrative is never textual, and I think that is very, very powerful. And I like to play the first 10 or 15 minutes with my students,
Hmm.
especially when we are talking about what I call progression,
Yeah.
which is a combination of both level design and predicting what the player will do in the first moments or during any part of the game, but especially in the beginning. And we start analyzing the first sequence, the sequence in the research lab, and
Hmm.
how it starts with blue and starts with just walks and falls and simple movements, and it's just a sterile place and completely clean until you get to the room with the bodies, until you get to the dark room, and then you have a small boss fight, and then suddenly there is a lot of tension, and the atmosphere is all red, and then we start having those things falling, debris falling down, and
Yeah.
then we
Yeah.
have the puffs of steam that hit you. They don't take any of your life, but they hit you and they slow you down. And then in the end, when you're going up that that well, basically they use the Super Nintendo chip for rotations,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
make you dizzy with those rotations, and they get you so pumped up for then bringing you down again to that open world that is rainy and is so serene. And then you start walking on the surface of that planet. You first go to your right, which is what you're used to because it's a fucking platformer, and then you can't do nothing going right, you have to go left.
Okay.
And the first time we're exploring that area, and there is no visible life all around. There are just like small creatures and they crawl away when you pass. I really like how this atmosphere is built.
Oh wow. This explanation was so great. I literally can imagine that as you are telling me this, you have all those images in your mind, and you played for sure those first 10 minutes multiple times because you remember all those steps and everything that's
I
happening there.
actually have seen it being played like 3 weeks ago because it was relevant during the class. So what I generally do is I ask for a student that had never played the game to
Mhm.
play and to video stream
Yeah.
for the
Okay.
rest of the class since COVID and quarantine.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, and it's cool because I generally don't tell that. I ask them, so what are you guys feeling now? And what have changed in the scenery? And it's incredible how they pick it up by themselves. You
Awesome.
just need to give them a nudge, and they understand everything by themselves. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that, and also I can tell that well, two things that you mentioned. One is the fact that this game in particular, its influence in the industry is it's so big that even today we describe other games as Metroidvanias. So you can still tell that, and I believe many people like myself. I love Metroid, but I wouldn't say like I'm a huge fan. But every time I see like a game similar to Metroid or a Metroidvania, it comes to my mind the game, and it's great because I haven't played the game probably in 20 years or 15 years, but still I remember and immediately I recognize like, okay, yeah, you mean this when you were saying
Yeah,
Metroidvania.
that's the feel.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that I'm curious about is when you play something, and do you can leave the ties that is a game designer outside of like your mind and play as a regular gamer,
No,
or every time that you? Okay, okay.
never. That's why actually I don't play as much games as I think I should, because sometimes I start and this is just wrong. This just feels so wrong. And
Okay.
sometimes I keep pushing just for the hate of it. Have you
Uh-huh.
done something just out of spite?
Yeah.
So yeah, I play a lot of games out of spite. Like
Okay.
this is so bad. They can't. It can't be worse than that, and then it gets worse.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to say before jumping into the next game that I'm very happy, and especially in Latin America, in the past when you heard about some student going to school to learn about video games, the teachers wouldn't be game developers, will be
Mhm.
people, and it's not wrong, it's just that they were not game developers because nobody was making games, and from some point someone had to start. But recently, and you're a clear example of that, people going to school to learn about game development, their teachers are game developers such as yourself, and I think that helps a lot, because what you're saying is not something that comes from a book, but actually from real experience. And I think everything should be learned throughout experience, or at least to me, it works better, right? If you experience something rather than just reading. But in particular games, you have to make them to actually like gain experience, because if you just read, like, how should something feel when you jump, unless you program and you have the idea of what it means, or not that you have to program, but unless you feel it, there's no way you can actually think like how something is going to work.
So Danilo has a very interesting story about that. Um, he is the one that started programming by himself and doing
Okay.
Mega Man clones in
Nice.
Multimedia Fusion when it was called Click and Play.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you did that too, I suppose.
I didn't, but that just remind me. There's one developer from Mexico who's working on a game, and he still uses Fusion,
Ah,
and I'm surprised. I'm surprised. But yeah, I used to make clones of games, but not in Fusion. I
so
used to.
our first two games were made in Fusion. Oniken and Odalos, they're both made in Multimedia Fusion.
Nice.
So when he began
Yeah.
working with Click and Play and Fusion, he was also on school and learning physics, like
Mhm.
normal school physics mechanics. And
Yeah.
the first games he tried to program, he used it like a normal, not normal, but theoretical gravity with
Okay.
the
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
acceleration of 10 meters by second squared,
Yeah.
and it's a shitty game. It's awful. And that's when you start to realize that to make a good game, you have to understand the suspension of disbelief, and you
Mhm.
have to understand how all those mechanics and those things working in the screen and how they relate to the controls and how to make them feel good.
For
And
sure.
it's nothing to do with reality, and it's nothing to do with anything else besides what feels good and how you can program it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely. And yes, there's this, and probably you're familiar with this concept of game feel, right? Which is kind of like what you're also saying, that in some cases your physics, it depends on the game, but in most cases the physics doesn't really make a lot of sense, because you try to favor something that feels better, something that is it's more fun, and just regular physics in some cases are not super fun, right?
No.
So so yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing those stories, which are super interesting. The next game, it's, I would say, something different from Metroid, but it's a game that I've enjoyed a lot, which is by Rockstar Games, developed by Rockstar San Diego. It was released 10 years ago for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. It's an adventure game, open world game, and this one is Red Dead Redemption. So, why Red Dead Redemption?
Actually, I think it's actually a very similar game to Super Metroid.
When I was saying that, I was thinking, no, maybe Thais has something different in mind. But yeah, okay. I want to hear that.
It's an open world game,
Yeah.
so this part is similar, and I really like how they build the world and they give you the sense of exploration, just like in Super Metroid, and
Hmm.
they open the areas around you based on the story, like all Rockstar games. But it feels so natural in that context, you know? It's the bridge you can't cross because you are in the fucking 1900s in the beginning of the century.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was the first game with that was story driven that really got to me, you know. I
Okay.
really felt like it. It I can't say it's because it's the best story driven game in the world, because it's very personal for me, because funny story, the first console I ever bought with my own money, my own hard work money, was Xbox 360,
Okay.
and I bought used from my cousin.
Okay.
I paid 250 reais, I remember up until this day. And Red Dead Redemption was the first game I bought for that console.
Okay.
I actually asked for a dear friend of mine, Maida, to buy it for me because she was going to the United States, and she got it for me. And I started playing. I just start working in this company, the first company I worked with video games.
Uh-huh.
I was living in São Paulo for a little over 1 year,
Okay.
and I started playing Red Dead Redemption. I had a 14 inches TV,
Okay.
this big,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
couldn't read the interface
Yes, I
because
can
the
imagine.
letters were fought for a bigger screen. But every day after work, I just looked forward to just sit in my sofa and unwind while riding horses and shooting bad guys. And
Yeah,
it's
it's a great game. I also have something that is special to me from Red Dead Redemption, and is the fact that at some point in the game, and I think we can spoil the game. It's been 10 years already.
okay, okay. We can, because I'm using a phone because Danilo haven't seen and played
Oh.
through it. I'm not going to spoil to him, but you can talk. I'm just not going to repeat it.
Okay, yeah. Please don't do that so he doesn't hate me. No, it's a part when the main character goes to Mexico, and as well. I have to say that Brazilians and Mexico, we have had some sort of representation in video games. Maybe not in the best way, but at least we can say, oh yeah, that character is from Brazil, or that place is in Brazil or Mexico.
There
But
is a
yeah,
telenovela in the TV, so obviously either
yeah.
Brazil or Mexico.
Yeah, or if it's someone playing soccer, that's either of those countries as well. But no, in Red Dead Redemption, you could when you go to Mexico, it looks very accurate. It looks like like home. And of course, I'm not
Yeah,
from a town. I'm from a city, but it felt good to be able to live in that era in a
yeah.
video game. And I think that was the first time that I felt that way, and it has a special place in my heart. This game in particular.
I think I felt a little similar, even though I'm not from Mexico, but because I'm from a small city.
Yeah.
And Danilo always jokes saying that the place I was raised, it's like medieval time, because a lot of the houses were still wood houses,
Yeah, yeah,
and not wood paneling like they do in the US, but
yeah.
like
Actual pieces of trees, like trunks and
yeah, and boards, and just boards, and the wall is like as fake as the fucking board, because it's just one board. There is no plaster, no nothing.
yeah,
And it just felt real. It was also a very agricultural city.
agricultural. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We had horses. I ride horses a lot when I was a child, so it just felt natural, you know.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, no, no, I feel you. And another question: are you a big fan of like games that take 30 hours, 40 hours to finish, or you don't necessarily care about the time? What's your take on that? I'm curious.
I don't care about time. One of the best games I played last year was Minute.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't thought of this game for this list, but
Yeah.
it's it's not about the duration, it's about the journey.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And I agree. Also, I have to say that to me, I'm not saying that I'm super busy. I think I just waste a lot of time. But to be honest, sometimes I feel bad when there's this game that takes a lot of time to beat. And I just simply say, oh, I wish, but I'm not going to invest 40 hours in this game. The last game that I
So
played that much was actually Red Dead Redemption 2. That's the latest game that
yeah,
I spent, I think, 50 hours on it. And I don't
yeah,
regret it, but I think like I could have played five other games or something.
yeah. I understand. I don't feel like that, but I have a little tiny problem with compulsion.
Okay.
So, for instance, some months ago, Minecraft Dungeons was free in
Yeah.
Microsoft Store,
Yes.
and a friend of mine was like, "We need to play Minecraft Dungeons. We need to play Minecraft Dungeons." And oh fuck, okay, I'm going to get this Microsoft Store thing for 1 month and 1 month only, and it was like 3 reais or something like that.
Okay.
And I started playing and it was fun, but okay. And then the same friend was like, "Oh, let's play No Man's Sky. It's also free." And I was like, "I'm not going to play this shit." And they were like, "Oh, it's super bad. Look, the tutorial. It's terrible." And I was like, "Terrible? How terrible?" And they started, "Oh, we don't understand what's going on." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to download this fucking game. I'm going to fucking play it."
Uh-huh.
So that was like 1 month, 1 week into the 1 month I say I was going to subscribe for the Microsoft service, and
Yes.
I started playing No Man's Sky. And 3 weeks later, when I unsubscribed of Microsoft Store, I had 101 hours in No Man's Skies only.
Okay. Wow. Wow. I yeah, I don't remember the last time I invested that much time in a game. And
So that's the thing, because the game doesn't end.
yeah,
S-
yeah, right.
it just reboots itself. So I was like, what now? And I started doing a lot of things, and I started a freighter company. And then I was like, oh, I need to come at this and this hour so I can send my freighters there and
Uh-huh.
get the money and stuff. And then I need to get the things that make the fuel, and I have to go to those planets to do that. And when I got to the 1 month mark, I was like, I can't play this anymore. I'm going to pull the plug, cut the
Yeah.
cord. I have to end this. And the problem to me is understanding how to stop it after it began.
Yeah.
So what I generally do is like a bad boyfriend. I just leave in the morning before the person wake up.
Oh, that's a great analogy. Yeah, and I love the fact that some people enjoy like games like No Man's Sky, and you know and I think you like to manage resources. Am I right? I sometimes don't like having so many options open. It overwhelms me, and I feel like, oh, I have so many things to do that I don't know what I want to do, and then I just leave the game.
So this is very common,
Yeah.
and it's a psychology phenomenon that is very studied.
Hmm.
That basically everybody feels anxious about choosing things,
Yeah.
and especially if you don't know a lot about the things you're choosing, so you have this anxiety.
Hmm.
So the idea is that you can only give so much choices to anyone, the player or whatever, as
Yeah.
soon as they become a expert in that area. So that is the main problem in the beginning of No Man's Sky, because they just throw a lot of shit at you and you don't understand half of it and you fucking hate the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was what my friends were going through in the beginning, and it's a shit show, that tutorial. But after you understand the game and you start to understand the choices you have, they become interesting because you start to understand the difference between the choices you're doing. But
Right.
if you just have all those options and you don't know A for B for C for an X, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's one thing that a lot of what you mentioned, having the freedom is great, but also too much freedom might impact the experience, and even bring anxiety to people. Because I honestly, and maybe I shouldn't, but like you, I think we love games. I feel bad when I want to enjoy something, but I'm not enjoying it. Like I
Yeah.
see everyone enjoying some game, and I try to play it, and I don't enjoy it. I just sometimes feel
That's
bad.
why I never play a game when it's released, because I don't want other people pressure to feel on me.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a a good one, but yeah, well, that was Red Dead Redemption. I think we can agree that Rockstar makes amazing games, in my opinion. I think I played all of their games besides the tennis one. That's one that I didn't play, but I always play them. I always finish them. I don't go for the 100%, which is another question I have for you. Do you play the games, until you get 100%, or you don't care about that? I don't care
Only
about that.
only Red Dead Redemption. It's the
Okay.
only game I got 100%.
And as a designer, what's your take on these games that have like 300 extra hidden things to find? Because also that gives me anxiety, even if I play something and I see like, oh, just 20% of completion rate. I feel bad because I didn't finish. And in the past, you will just either finish the game and the story, and of course you could return and do some extra things, but now I feel bad for not having 100 percentage
So
on this one.
when we talk about like AAA games, they're
Mhm.
very expensive, and they need the companies need to like, they can't just pick one player profile and say, I'm going to do this great game for this kind of players. They
Mhm.
need to think, we have these 10 different types of players and we need all of them to buy this game.
Sure.
So that's why when you play any AAA game, there is a lot of shit that you like and a lot of shit you hate, but it's optional,
Right.
like those achievements and etc. Those are there for the type of player that is a complexionist and a perfectionist, and it's shitty. It's just a simple getcha to get a wider range of players, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
But we have to please those players to keep them buying $60 games, right?
That's absolutely right, and you're also right. The thing that those are optional, I think that's the key, because if in order to see the ending or something, I had to complete 100%, then I will be like, oh, I'm never gonna see the ending in the
Yeah,
game, because I can always go to YouTube or whatever. But since they are optional, it's great. Like, okay, if you want them, do it. If you don't, then just
exactly.
don't do it. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so let's jump to the next game. And another great game that I have good memories with. It's a game from 2002 for Super NES. It's a platformer by Nintendo, published by Nintendo, and the Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. So tell
You
me,
said 2002?
I yes, unless I'm okay. Let me Google that.
I think 2002, it's a
A
relaunch of
remake.
it.
You might be right. Uh,
I think it's 92 or 93 original release.
yeah, probably I
Yeah,
just mistyped
it's
the number.
no problem. It's not a big deal. It's a
You're
good game, as you
you're
said.
right. 1995. Yeah, the
99.
2002 is the Game Boy Advance
Yeah,
re-release. So yeah,
yeah.
you're right. I should do my homework better.
No, you shouldn't. You're here to test us, and
Yeah,
that's
it
why
was a
you made
test.
that on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah, correct. And I can always edit this out and just say like that I didn't fail. So yeah, tell me about Joshi's story, and why this Mario in particular, and not like what everybody else chooses, right? Like, which is the Super
Actually,
Mario one.
the only Mario game I really love.
Okay,
I don't,
that's interesting.
yeah, I like a bunch of the other ones. I like it Galaxy a lot.
Uh-huh.
I like it 3D World a lot.
Yeah.
I like the new Super Mario Brothers. I like the two. I like Mario World. But this is the only game I love. And I think it's because it's the whole package, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Aesthetics are amazing.
Yes.
I never saw anything like that in pixel art. Um, the gameplay just feels so right, you know. I love that how you, if you keep push the jump button,
Yeah.
Yoshi will jump and then which
Yeah.
changes the
and
platform
And I can
paradigm
even hear
completely.
Yoshi doing that noise right now when you mentioned
Mm,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cute. It's so spot on, and
Yeah.
I really really love this game.
Yeah, and one thing that I remember trying to figure out, and by the time I didn't even know how to program, or I didn't even know that these were like the games were software, and maybe I was a stupid kid, but I yeah, I didn't know, and I
Games are magic. I never thought working with games was possible until after I graduated from college, you know.
Yeah, but trying to see how like the small eggs will follow you. I was like, how do they do this? Is this like a another character controlled by magic or something? That was my thought at the time.
So cute.
Yeah. And so this Mario game, you mentioned that you like other, well, that this is the only Mario game that you like. I honestly, most of the people don't reference Yoshi's Story as like their favorite game, or a game that they like a lot, when there are so many other Mario games. What's your take on the way that you're actually not controlling a Mario character, but you're using another character?
I think that's my favorite thing because
Okay.
it's different, it's fresh. It's not that I don't like Mario games, it's
Hmm.
just it's the same thing, you know. They do something new and they always do it perfectly because Nintendo is very good on game design. I don't think we need to discuss that. It's
Yeah,
2020. They are very good in game design. They are probably the only company, big company right now that actually really cares about game design.
I agree.
And but it's just a game with soul, you know. I think it's just like when they released this Splatoon, that was something new. Finally, something new coming from Nintendo, and not another reboot, another rebrand. It's it's perfect, you know, and it's just feel nice and new, and not overused or repurposed as Mario was. And I think a lot of people don't mention this game enough because it came late in the Super NES history, and it actually uses the special chip that was developed by the Star Fox team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was a expensive cartridge that got to Super Nintendo. I don't know if very close to Nintendo 64 launch or right after announcement or launch, but it sold very badly. It's very rare to find this cartridge actually. I'm very fortunate to have inherited one from Danilo side.
Okay.
I just
Ah,
married him because of his Super Metroid and
okay.
Yoshi's Island, obviously.
It makes all sense. No, yeah, and that's an interesting point. Do you keep like a collection of all the stuff that you have in your home, or
So
what's? Yeah.
let's take you for a spin. I don't know
Oh,
how much
nice.
I can do because that's a very bad computer. I told you I'm using my spare computer.
Yeah, no
Uh,
worries.
yeah, you can hear me, right? Because I
Yeah,
don't know what I did.
yeah, I can hear
I'm
you.
not seeing you, but okay. Oh, okay. We are back.
Yeah.
So this is our office.
Okay.
So here is the console wall.
Okay.
We have
Okay. I see a
two
N64.
retro
Yeah.
TVs.
Nice.
Danilo also has a retro computer
Okay.
besides his normal computer. So we have
Does that computer still works? Like, or
yeah,
is just?
yeah.
Oh,
He
wow.
uses that to play DOS games.
Oh, nice, nice.
And like I don't know if you can see everything, but we do have a Famicom there, a Saturn,
Yeah, the
um,
Wii, the 64. Uh-huh.
yeah, all
Nice,
this
nice,
old
nice.
crazy shit, and we use them a lot during work hours to research, you know,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
research,
Yeah, of course,
one
of
hundred
course.
percent research.
Nice, nice. No, thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah. So just to wrap up with Yoshi, I see you have two platformers so far, and you have also developed your own games that are platformers. Do you think, and of course, the games that I know you developed doesn't look like Yoshi's story, right? But you think there's something in your games that that got inspiration from like Yoshi's story,
Yoshi's Island, because
Yoshi Island.
Yoshi's Story is
Is
the
this
64
right?
version
Right,
of
right,
it,
right.
and
Yeah,
it's trash. It's trash.
yeah. Yeah, I
Don't
don't
play
know. Yeah,
that game, people. Don't play that game.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Sorry.
oh, no problem. It's a cute name too, but oh, I don't know. I think when I think about a game,
Mhm.
when I'm developing a game, I don't like to think it in terms of other games. I like to think it in terms of what I want the player to feel,
Okay,
and I try to think mechanics around that.
got it.
So I see that a lot on Yoshi's Island.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, you are in control of Yoshi and you have to protect a baby, but Yoshi is a little messy and he
mm-hmm.
does things in a funny way. You can see in the animations. He's not precise as Mario. He
Yeah,
doesn't play
yeah.
like Mario, and I can feel it when I play it, and that's what I try to do with the games I design.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that response. And finally, because I do want to jump to the next game, what's like Mario, Yoshi, and other like mascots from games or characters? Is there anything that you as a game designer feel like should be part of the game, or you think like any game should work even if they were just squares, and what's the aesthetics shouldn't matter, or do you actually think like a game such as Yoshi Island uh, uh, needs Yoshi and Mario to work, and it's part of the charm?
I don't think they need the mascot, but they need something cute
Okay.
because it's a naive game and they need that feel and they need a vessel to tell the story. Of course, it's Yoshi and Mario, but it could be another completely different character that also has that features, you know.
Okay.
When I'm
Yeah.
teaching game design to my students, I divide game design in four main aspects. I talked about progression right now,
Hmm.
that is planning the player way, but we also have mechanics, that is how the game works,
Yeah.
and systems, which is how things are balanced and how they connect between themselves. And finally, we have context. And context for me is aesthetics, it's sounds, it's music, it's narrative, it's everything that helps the designer build that feel, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and put the player in that place and make the player feel what they are supposed to feel.
Awesome. Thanks for converting these to a game design lecture. It's extremely
Welcome
great.
to my TED talk, and that was game design.
Yeah, when I went to school, I went to just learn software, not necessarily games. So I think I skipped all these game design things, and I tried to read books, but just things didn't stick from the books. It was by making games that I learned a couple of things, but some other things I think like if my teacher will knew these things or could have like some sort of class on around these, but I didn't have classes around that. So
It's problematic because it's a field that we are discovering and researching as we speak.
mm,
So that division that I use, I created based on how I see the industry divides their game designers, and I think it works for understanding. But there might be better ways better frameworks to understand game design. I'm not aware of them, or I don't like them very much, so I'm not going to say their names.
yeah, that's good. That give them any free promotion then. So let's go to the next game. Super cute game as well. I think on the same league as Yoshi and Mario. From Nintendo as well. I see you're some sort of Nintendo fan here. From
Maybe.
from 2013 for the 3DS game is Animal Crossing New Leaf. Not the recent one, but New Leaf on 3DS.
I
So,
put this game in particular because it's a game I'm playing right now.
oh, okay. So you're also playing. Did you play also New Horizons, or you're playing New Leaf?
It's my first Animal Crossing game.
Okay, wow. And why did you start with this one and not with Horizon, which is the newest one?
First of all, I don't have a Switch, but
Okay.
mostly because Danilo got it for me, and I was like, oh, maybe I should try this game because
Mhm.
it's cute, and I actually fell in love with it.
Nice, nice. And well, this is kind of like I will say, well, it's a game, right? Because you have rules and you have things that make a game, but it's not stressful. It's one of these
Yes,
games that you could just because there are games that if you're stressed from work and you start playing, that this happened to me when I used to play Splinter Cell multiplayer. I will come from school stressed, and then I will stressed more because of playing this game and losing and wanting to win and all these things. But
never play multiplayer when you're stressed.
yeah, but in this case, this is the perfect type of game to just don't stress. So do you feel that way? Do you feel like when you're playing these,
I'm
it's a very
playing
relaxing?
this game and I'm watching like a game design class with this with Animal Crossing. And I don't know if you know this, but I started working as a game designer for mobile companies. So we have all those strategies of keeping you playing and keeping you coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And Animal Crossing does that without the the neediness that mobile games do. It's not a hard hand
Yeah.
making you play and making you come back because you need to keep playing. It's a game that says, hey, let's just shake some trees and see what comes out of it. And doesn't matter how many trees you shake, there's not going to be more than those items we plant to you daily. So
Yeah.
don't play too much. Don't stay in your island for 2 hours. We don't
Yeah.
want that. But they never punish you. It's
Uh-huh.
a game that doesn't punish you, and it's a very interesting. It's the first time I'm playing a game that just feels like a friendship
Yeah.
and not a abusive relationship.
And especially now that I think, and I'm not sure if this is just me seeing things, but in the past couple of even months, or I would say less than a year, I've seen more and more of these things that people call like wholesome games, games that you play just to relax, to have a nice short experience. Recently, I played a short hike, which is just another relaxing experience. There are some challenges, but
I
you
heard
just
a lot of good
enjoy.
things about this game. I need to play it.
Yeah, you
And
should.
before I was between two games when I was thinking about Animal Crossing. I was also thinking about Florence. I don't know if you played
Yeah, yeah,
Florence.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I
I
love
also
this
enjoyed
game,
it a lot. Yes,
but I
yes.
just played once, so
Uh-huh.
that's why Animal Crossing got the spot. But it's also a game that I love, and I love the simple design of it. You know.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not wrong, Florence, if you played it once there and you wanted to replay, the result and everything would have been the same, right? Unlike like Animal Crossing, where you can keep playing and you can create your own story
Yeah,
based
it's
on it.
basically a short story.
Yeah, yeah. And I love those things as well. I enjoy games that I can enjoy for a short period of time, but I see how that's a challenge for game developers, right? Because if you make a game that is 3 hours and you want to charge $1 or something, you could easily try to extend that to 8 hours and try to charge more. So it's also a balance of not starving because you're not selling enough, but also
And
about
it's even if it is a game that lasts for half an hour, you didn't build that in half an hour. It
yeah,
took you
of
a
course.
year, two
Yeah,
years, three
yeah,
years. It
yeah,
took you a lot. And yeah, I try not to criticize small developers for selling out in small things, but I love when they don't, and
yeah.
I pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also important to try to do, like now we have a lot of ways to support, unlike when we were saying like in the past you had to pirate games, and in reality you couldn't even if you had the money, at least in Mexico, if you went and tried to buy a game, original game, that didn't come through official distribution channels. So in the end, you were not giving money to the developer. You were giving money to everyone else but the developer. But now
Yeah,
with Humble, with Steam, with the Epic Game Store, there are multiple ways, and even some developers have like Patreons
yeah.
and Kickstarter. And I believe that if we want to have these experiences, we should support them because yeah, it takes time, it takes money, it takes effort, and if we can, we should.
And digital distribution was a game changer.
Yeah,
Without it, we wouldn't have those small developers, and we wouldn't have me as well, because our games only exist because of digital distribution. We
Yeah,
only
yeah,
would be able to make those small games, simple games, shorter games that bring memories about games of your childhood because of digital distribution.
of course, and yeah, it changed the game. It made also possible for more people to play
Yes.
as well, because now you don't have to invest in a computer, you don't have to invest in a console. Now, in some cases, you don't even have to invest in the game. Like, you know, games are free, and you can play, and you could play a lot without having to pay. Of course, the money has to come from somewhere, and someone is paying for that. But yeah, the fact that you can play, the fact that you can explore without, like you mentioned, the Xbox Game Pass. That Game Pass has allowed me to try games that otherwise I wouldn't be able to discover, because
Yeah.
of course I don't have infinite money, and sometimes I'm like, well, I want to play these, but well, and now I can try it and say, well, I liked it, I'm going to support the developer in other way, and actually just playing and paying that you're supporting. But yeah, it's exciting to have the.
That conversation reminds me of our last game, because when I discovered Card Crawl,
Yeah.
wasn't financially well,
Okay.
so I played this game for free for years until I was like, now I have money and now I'm going to buy this game and now
Yeah.
everything's going to be okay. And I have bought everything from the developer since.
Nice, nice, and that's great, and I think yeah, that's how this works. Like you, also as a consumer, and now being on the other side, you also want you, to wisely use your hard earned money, right? You don't want to spend $60 on something just blindly trusting that it's going to be good. But once you see that, okay, this is good, then I want to support the developers because I want to have more of these games. So
I
yeah,
wouldn't mind paying even more in some games. And I think we are in a moment in our industry that things are getting very complicated because of that. Because those AAA games, they are expensive every year, but the price is the same for the last like 10 or 20 years. And maybe it's easy for me to say that because I don't play many AAA games, but I understand why they have to be so expensive. Just the sheer amount of people working on it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and oh, but yes, it's so complicated being an
Yeah,
adult because also like games now for new consoles, which are going to be like $70 for countries such as Brazil, Mexico, or any country that it doesn't use the US dollar. It gets more and more expensive.
that's another thing I love about digital distribution because you
Mhm,
can have
mhm.
different prices.
Yeah, yeah.
So Steam does that very well. A lot of games are like half price here in Brazil, and
Mhm.
it makes sense with our consumer market.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
as a developer, we use the automatic correlation that Steam does,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we also decrease the value even more for Brazil because we want people from Brazil to play our games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not a matter. This is just my personal opinion. I should state somewhere that this is not Unity's opinion or anything. It's just my personal opinion. But I think that even if you charge less, you of course will make, as a developer, will make less money, but that may be the difference between someone not paying in the first place, so actually making more money. And it's complicated, but in some cases it's worth it.
I think making cheaper in countries that have smaller um, average consumer money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My brain's freezing. I'm sorry.
No, no worries.
Louis
I
Grams.
yeah, no worries. We have to also say that English is not our native language, and sometimes it's
Neither of us.
yeah, and that's another thing, unrelated, but I feel bad when people from Latin America speaking Spanish or Portuguese. We have to communicate in English, like a third
Me too.
unrelated language.
Me
So
too. But every time I go to Colombia
yeah,
or any other Latin America country, I try to speak in Spanish, and then people automatically respond in English.
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm trying here. Don't crush my heart. I'm really trying. I'm doing
Yeah.
my best.
Yeah, and then yeah, I don't know why, but anyway, so let's jump to your actual last game, which you already mentioned, Card Crawl. It's a beautiful game. I love the visuals. It's a game from 2018 for mobile. Well, I think it was only on Android and
2018?
yes, or am I?
No,
Maybe I'm
no,
drunk
I
now.
don't think so.
I
I
shouldn't
remember
drink.
playing it in Manaus.
Okay. I'm looking at the Steam web page, so maybe they released that in
Aha.
2018.
Yeah. Is Steam definitely 2018,
Yes.
but I first played in Google Play.
Okay, so Google Play. Um, yeah, I don't have the date here, but yeah, it was updated on September 2019, so that's
Yeah,
as
it
accurate
doesn't help.
as this video podcast is. But anyway, so well, first, this is the first game that is like a card game. It's not like a game where you
I
control.
just found on
Yeah.
YouTube a
Okay.
release trailer, and it's from 2015, so
Okay.
it's
Okay.
around this time.
Okay. Yeah. So, go back in time for now. Yeah, it's a game from 2015. Tell me about card crawl, Thais. First, you like card games, like physical card games? You play those games?
So, funny story, my family also didn't like spending money on stuff, so I never
Okay.
played any card games. I had friends who played Magic the Gathering and
Uh-huh.
other friends that played Pokemon card game,
Mhm.
but I never got into it. And I'm not a big fan of loot boxes, which is basically what those booster packs are, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. I'm not a fan either, but not anymore. But when I used to play like Yu-Gi-Oh, it was and I think that's what's wrong. But it was addicting to try to get a new one and try to like hit
Yeah.
the jackpot. So yeah, it's I guess
It's a
gambling.
big part of it because
Yeah,
cards are rare and everything, and that's why I love card crawl, because it's just like a baralho. You know what is
yeah, yeah,
baralho?
yeah, yeah. It's a deck. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, just a normal deck of cards, like you have your aces and your queens and kings. It's a set number of cards, and it's like solitary. You're playing against yourself, basically.
Yeah, yes.
And it's a simple game with simple rules, and it's so visual. It's like you have two hands, and you can use two things, and you have a stash, and I just love this game.
I agree, and I like the fact that he's not extremely like aggressive on the compet- competitiveness of it because I've tried playing other card games, and people might think that I I give up too easily, but maybe I do. But yeah, when you start and then you start losing before even understanding what's going on, to me it's
It's
like a
terrible.
demoralizing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
for everybody, honestly.
yeah, yeah, and having these calm games where, of course, you can lose and all these things, but it kind of goes at your pace and not necessarily at someone else's pace. I think.
Love this game. I love all the games of this company.
Yeah.
But card crawl is the one that I love most. I'm not sure if it is because it was the first one I played,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's because it's so elegant. It's simple. You can understand it playing like twice. You already understand it, but you can master it. And after you understand how to make combos with the special cards and everything, and then it it grows on you. The second game I saw from this developer is the stealth one. I don't remember the name. It's
Yeah.
Card Thief, I think.
I think. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Card
I.
Thief, it took me a while to understand. After I understood it, I love it, but it's not so simple. You have to think, and it in my opinion it loses a bit of its charm of card crawl.
Mhm.
And finally, the third game I played, I think it's Potion Merchant. It's a fancy name about a guy that makes potions, and I like it. I get very addicted to it. I traveled to Iran 2 years ago, and I was playing this game like crazy. I couldn't stop playing it. But as it came, it went.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I think it's mm, maybe it's too simple. While card crawl, you can elevate it from the bare bones of it. The potion merchant is not that. It's not that scalable in difficulty, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And may I ask if you want to respond? Were you in Iran for vacation or for an event or for work or?
Both actually. It was for an event, Terran Game Show, Terran Game Convention.
Okay.
Don't remember the perfect spelling, but I was giving a talk, and they offered for a small fee to stay, I think, one further week for a travel to Isfahan,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Oh.
a historical city, and I did it, and it was amazing, and I love it. Have you
Awesome.
ever went to Iran?
No, I've never been to, and I was curious to hear like how's the like the game development scene there. What was your
You're
experience there?
going If you go there, you're going to feel it's very familiar
Okay,
because
okay.
there is a lot of people trying to do the best with the bad cards they were given by life by living in a not so great financially country.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you have also the guys that have a lot of money and think that investing in games are going to make them richer. And you also have the kids with bright eyes, and it's very familiar to any gaming scene in Latin America.
Okay, okay. So I'll feel like home there, I guess.
Yes.
That's
Not
pretty
so
cool.
much about the food, but everything
Okay.
else, yes.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we're about to wrap up. I think we've extended, and not because I'm not enjoying this. It's great, but
I understand. I hear Danilo is eating, and I'm hungry, and I want to steal his food right now.
yeah, no, no, I have to thank you, Thais, for your time, for this, for the openness about everything you just shared. I guess after thanking you, is there a way where people can connect with you, where they can follow you to see like what you're teaching, your books? I'll put the links on the description, but if there's anything that you want to share so people know more about your work.
I generally respond and speak more openly through Twitter, which
Okay.
is Stay Sailor. I have a website which is basically like a scrapbook of things that I did, so I don't forget I did them because
Okay.
I often do. And uh, there you go.
Okay. So it's like
Uh,
it's like a web page of Thai's mind.
yeah,
Okay.
not really my mind. Is more like when my mind is gone, I
Okay.
don't keep a diary, I don't keep an agenda, I don't keep neither of those.
Yeah.
At least if I don't know, the police needs my alibi for such day, we have a schedule there that
Yeah.
I generally update, and I also have my portfolio there that has it used to be like a resume and a portfolio for looking for jobs, but I don't look for jobs for the past like 5 or 6 years. So it's basically a museum of
Okay.
Thais.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I'll put those links in the description. And again, thank you so much, Thais. It's
Thank
it's
you for
been
inviting
great.
me. It's so nice to talk to someone that's not related to me or doesn't work with me.
Yeah, especially now. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that, especially now during these times that probably you spend a lot of time in Zoom or something else. The last thing that you want is to spend an extra hour and 20 minutes with someone else on Zoom. But thank you so
I don't
much.
mind. Thank you. And have a great night, Arturo.
Thank you very much, and talk to you hopefully soon. Thank you.
Bye bye.